I met my ex in college. She was by far the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Everywhere she went, there was always a crowd of guys around her. We had a few classes together over the 4 years we spent there, but I never really tried to get close to her. I mean, there were just too many guys after her. One day after class, she asked if I wanted to study with her, and from that point, everything changed. We ended up getting married and started our careers. We both worked in the same industry but at different companies, and it was a field that was dominated by men. I had good luck right from the start and found success quickly, but she had a harder time. She switched jobs within the first year and still faced challenges. Then, by the 3rd year, she got pregnant with our first son. She kept working through the pregnancy though. Not long after giving birth, she went in for a routine checkup. Her doctor recommended a biopsy of her cervix, and the results showed precancerous cells. The doctor advised that if we wanted more children, we needed to act fast because it would progress and a hysterectomy might be needed in the future. So, once she was ready, she got pregnant again and gave birth to another boy within a year of the first one. Afterward, the doctors suggested she get the procedure done soon. With 2 infants to take care of, she went through with it. She was heartbroken because we had always talked about having a big family, but now, that dream was over. She poured all her energy into being a fantastic mother, which she was. She became a stay-at-home mom and took care of everything at home. Meanwhile, my career kept advancing. I was offered a job with another company that came with a huge salary increase, and life seemed perfect. When the boys started school, she volunteered there and became a regular presence. We also had close friends, Adam and Becky, whom we went to school with. Our families were very close, and we often took vacations together, had dinners, and went on outings. They had 1 son, and we all had a blast together. After Becky went back to work and became very successful, things started to change for Adam. His job was eliminated around 2001, and he had a hard time finding a new position because the economy really hit his industry hard. The decision was made that he would stay at home with the kids while continuing to search for a job, as they didn't want to move away from where we lived. At that point, my ex and Adam started spending a lot of time together. They did a lot with the kids, and when the kids were in school, they still hung out. I didn't know it at the time, but they had an affair. The story gets a lot heavier from here. About a year later, after their affair had been going on for some time, Adam asked my ex if we had ever talked about having a threesome. He mentioned it as something he and I had joked about before, but at the time, our relationship was still very good. Adam said he had a friend, Carl, who he thought would be interested in joining. My ex agreed to it. The day Carl showed up, he stripped off his suit, and things got started with Adam and my ex warming up. They had the threesome, and afterward, Carl told them he usually paid for sex, but this time, he left a couple of $100 bills and asked if he could have some one-on-one time with my ex. She told him she needed to think about it, and Adam would get back to him. Not long after, Carl recommended someone else, and that's when things really took off. Eventually, Adam got another job, and things started to change again. My ex started using a different phone, renting a storage unit which she turned into a closet and office. She used the money from her clients to buy outfits they requested. She even bought a new car so that her old minivan wouldn't be spotted at a hotel. The men she saw had to pay for a room at a nice hotel, and she kept the car at the storage unit. Everything was done in cash. As far as I know, she never brought the money home. I didn't notice any change in our life at first. We sent the kids to different day camps during the summer, and she told me that she was tightening our budget to afford it. She only worked during school hours, and she always made sure to pick the boys up from school. On a few occasions, Adam would pick them up and keep them until she got home. Our family life never seemed to be affected. I was busy with my job, moving up the ladder, but the weekends were still our time together. We didn't have much sex during the week, but on weekends we did, and I thought that was fine. Most nights, we'd cuddle up on the couch and watch television. Then, in 2016, things took a major turn. Our oldest son was in college, and our younger one was a senior in high school. I got a call from Adam. He said my ex was in the hospital and that she was badly hurt. He didn't give me any details, but I rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, my wife was hooked up to machines. They'd already cleaned her up and taken her for X-rays. She had a broken jaw, a broken nose, a fractured orbital bone, and a possible concussion. They assured me she'd make it, but it would be a long recovery. A police officer was finishing up when I got there, and of course, I wanted to know what happened. She was crying, rambling through the pain, and a nurse told me I should let her rest. They were moving her to another room soon. She handed me a bag with her clothes, and when I looked inside, I asked if the clothes were hers. The dress and the heels were unfamiliar to me. The nurse said they had come from the hotel room. That's when I started to suspect something. Later that night, when the fog of the medication started wearing off, I got some of the story out of her. She drifted off again, and I had my younger son sit with her while I called Adam. I asked him why he called me. How did he know before I did? What was really going on? Adam finally came clean about what had been happening with my wife, though he left out the affair and his own involvement. I was devastated. She eventually came home after surgery on her jaw. Her nose would have to wait. She recovered at home, and as she got stronger, I got the full story. I called Becky and told her everything about the affair and Adam's role in it. She threw Adam out. When my wife was able to stand on her own, I told her we were done. I asked her to move out. She ended up moving in with Adam, and I started the divorce proceedings. Now 5 years have passed since the divorce. I still love her, but it feels like she's dead. The grief is unbearable. Our sons know what she did, and I haven't spoken to her since she left. A few weeks ago, I posted about something that happened, and you can check my profile for the details. But I didn't update it because, honestly, there wasn't much to say. That is, until last night. I got a call from my oldest son, Ryan, who was out of town for the holiday weekend. A friend of his called to let him know that his brother, Sam, had been in a motorcycle accident. Ryan wasn't with him at the time, though. He was ahead of him on another bike and didn't see what happened. I rushed straight to the hospital emergency room. They were cleaning Sam up and getting him ready for X-rays. They told me to take a seat, and the doctor would come out soon. I sat down and leaned my head back, trying to calm myself, and closed my eyes for a moment. Then I heard my name. I looked up, and there she was, my ex, standing in the doorway. She asked if I had any news, and I told her I was still waiting. She asked if she could sit with me, and I told her to go ahead. I hadn't seen her in 5 years, not since the divorce. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I thought she might look different, maybe disfigured from everything she'd been through. But she wasn't. Her face had changed a little, but not too much. The one thing that really stood out to me was that her eyes didn't have that sparkle they once did. I always loved the way her eyes shone, no matter what. Even with a mask on, they didn't look the same. It's funny what you notice when you see someone after so long. She smiled, but it wasn't the same. It was like her face just stayed still, not lighting up the way it used to. Maybe she just has a resting face, now. While we waited, we tried to catch up. It was a bit awkward, and I could tell we were both nervous. She mentioned how much she liked the landscaping I'd done at the house, especially now that the plants had matured. That made me realize she had been by the house, though I had no idea where she was living now. The boys were told not to talk about her, and I tried to erase any reminder of her from the house. I even replaced some bushes that she had planted, and I didn't mention that I'd completely redone the inside of the house. I had even knocked down a wall and had a construction dumpster in the driveway for months. She asked how I was doing. For some reason, I told her the truth. I admitted that I'd kind of stalled in life, spending too much time working. But recently, I'd started seeing a therapist, joined a gym, and even started riding a bike. She didn't say much at first but then added that she no longer, well, she didn't finish her sentence. It was like she was leaving it for me to ask, but I didn't. She said she'd stayed with Adam for a couple of months after everything happened, but she was also seeing a counselor who encouraged her to take some college courses in her field. That took a couple of years, but she's working full-time now. She also mentioned she dated minimally, leaving the door open for me to respond if I wanted. I figured the boys had already kept her updated about me, so I didn't feel the need to add anything else. At that moment, the doctor came out to talk to me. He went over the injuries Sam had sustained. The worst of it was his foot and ankle, which got pinned under the bike when it went down. They had to schedule him for surgery the next day. Thankfully, everything else seemed fine. He just needed some time to heal and go through rehab. They also said he had a slight concussion, but they expected him to recover. They told me he'd be in the hospital at least until tomorrow, depending on how his head injury progressed. I offered Sam a place to stay at my house. I've got plenty of room, and I can work from home, so it would be no trouble. We're going to finalize those plans today. Of course, that means his mother will probably want to visit too, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge for me. But we'll take it one step at a time and see how things go. Sam is healing well, though he still has a ways to go. We've decided it's best for him to stay with me while he's recovering. He's hoping to get back to work next week, and his boss is arranging for him to work from home for a while. I barely get him into the back seat of my SUV since he has to stretch out, and honestly, driving him to and from work every day would be a real hassle. People have been asking about whether my ex has been coming over, and I always make sure I'm out of the house when she does. I'll go to the gym or take a bike ride to give them space. My oldest son, Ryan, has tried to get us all to sit down for dinner together, but I've shut that idea down. I'm just not ready for that yet. My ex has been very respectful, though. She hasn't pushed me into anything. She comes over to see Sam, sits with him, and sometimes cooks dinner for him. She even brings groceries when she does. Occasionally, Sam's friends come over, and it gets a little noisy, but at least he forgets about his injuries for a while when there's company around. To say that we don't talk at all would be a lie. But our conversations never stray far from the kids, their lives, and how they're doing. This will be my final update. Sam is healing well, according to the doctor. He still has a ways to go with physical therapy and is moving around slowly, but he's making progress. He's still staying at my place and working from home. I've returned to the office to give him some space. Now, as many of you predicted, my ex has started doing little things around the house. Sam's not the tittiest, so she's been cleaning up after him and doing his dishes. She'll cook him a meal and always leaves a plate for me, which I tell Sam he can have for lunch the next day. The other night, she asked if I'd be interested in going out to dinner since Sam had some friends coming over. I told her no. A little later, she suggested we grab a meal just to clear the air. Again, I said no. I finally told her. We ended a long time ago because of your actions. It took me a long time to get over everything that was lost. I don't plan on revisiting a relationship with you. She said she understood and accepted it. I also told her that I didn't mind her visiting Sam until he's able to get back to his place. I thanked her for cleaning, but I let her know it wasn't necessary. I really appreciate all the encouragement and kind words from everyone, but I'll get through this. My heart has hardened.